Who could forget the N64, arguably the best console of its time? In a day where there were tons of consoles to choose from, Nintendo definitely stood out on the top. But there was a continuing war between Sega and the N64. But one thing is for certain, some of these consoles were balls of flying orangutan shit, while others such as the N64, Sega Saturn, and Sony's maiden console, the PlayStation 1, pushed the bar a little more with every game that came out. I didn't get my first console until I was 7 years old in 2001. Had I waited any longer, I would have never became a fan of Nintendo. The N64 itself was discontinued around mid-2002. Before I actually dig into any of these games, I thought I would show you guys my actual collection so you guys know what I had to work with. I don't have many games, and I don't have many prominent titles like Ocarina of Time or Super Mario 64, but these games are something I hold near and dear to my heart for introducing me to the world of console gaming and igniting my love for video games. And for that, I hold Nintendo very close to my soul. Okay, so the first thing that comes to mind is, only that many games? I mean, come on, it's motherfucking Nintendo, right? Well, many things attribute to that, but there were just three main reasons. Number one was, with the VHS era coming to an end at the start of this new decade and the start of the millennium, and the N64 era coming to a close, video stores were slowly starting to stack old VHS shelves with new DVDs. Similar to that, N64 cartridges were being replaced by GameCube discs. What a perfect analogy. When a local video store went out of business, I had to resort to borrowing games from friends or going to the local GameStop and buying used games. This is how I would play classic titles like Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros., Pokemon Stadium, and Ocarina of Time. Reason number two, the motherfucking GameCube. This console hit like an atomic bomb in the US market just about half a year after I bought the N64. I would eventually get my own Nintendo GameCube in 2004, so I'm not complaining. Number 3. I actually had one more game in my collection that's laying around somewhere in my abyss that is the garage storage in my house. Space Station Silicon Valley. I got it as a present for getting the Principals Award in 2nd grade. Those were good times. Anyways, an unknown fact is that Silicon Valley was created by DMA Studios, a Scottish developer, but you might know them as Rockstar North, creator of the Grand Theft Auto series. Wonder how they got there, but that's for another time. Okay, so moving on to my individual games. This will just be an overview of the consoles, so I won't be doing individual game reviews. Instead, I'll be looking at all the games from the order I got them in and explain how I got each individual game. Okay, so let's start with Paper Mario. This game came with the console itself. Now you gotta remember that this is 2001, the last production year of the Nintendo 64. So to even out the price, Nintendo did what it still does today. Gaming bundles, bonus materials, extra controllers, etc. to even out the price. This particular bundle came with the black Nintendo 64, 2 controllers, one of them was gray and one clear purple, and the game Paper Mario. I don't regret this whatsoever. I had been introduced to Mario before through an NES my cousin owned, but at the time it didn't really captivate me too much. Then came the imaginative paper mechanics, art, and RPG elements of this game that forever made me not only a Mario and Nintendo fan, but an RPG fan too. I would include it in any of my top 10 RPG lists of all time. Then we have GoldenEye, the essential first-person shooter at any sleepover, published and developed by Rare. I got this game from the only other place where I bought my games after the video store closed down, GameStop. Yes, GameStop had some very nice deals at the time. Although as a side note, Paper Mario and Silicon Valley were my only new N64 games. The other ones were used or bought rentals, but I'll explain that later. I also had another 007 game, The World Is Not Enough. Fun, but insanely difficult, and not by the developer Rare. It took me over a year to beat this game, and it nearly wasn't half as fun as GoldenEye, but it was worth the $3 I got it for at the time. Moving on. The Sarge's Heroes series. This was made by the now defunct developer 3DO. These games were instant buys because I had been an Army Men fan since I played the first and second ones of the main series on PC. And let me tell you, these games have hours and hours of replayability, so look into them when you can. I believe the new owners put out a war chest several years back for the PC games. Mickey Mouse Speedway USA. What can I say? Mario Kart had me hooked on racing, and I had been a Disney fan since I watched Pixar classics of Bug's Life and Toy Story, not to mention the all-time classic Lion King, Hakuna Matata. But I've got a lot of ground to cover for Disney films. Anyways, this game was Mario Kart with Disney characters and new locales. One of my friends enjoyed it so much that he begged me to make a trade for his Mario Kart game. I of course said no at the time, but now that I have Mario Kart Wii, that doesn't really matter. Now we have one of my favorite Star Wars games of all time, Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. This is the last Nintendo 64 game I ever purchased, and I got it immediately after I watched Star Wars Episode 4 on VHS, which I rented from the local library. This game is famous not for its graphics, gameplay, or storyline. No, it's famous for being the first game on the N64 to have an orchestral soundtrack. That was very new at the time for games and unique among Nintendo 64 games or even Star Wars games, especially since the equally famous Rogue Squadron used a synthesized soundtrack. Next, we have the only sports game I ever purchased, and a credit to tons of my childhood laughs for its graphical glitches and sound effects, rather than its gameplay. NFL Quarterback Club 98. These black boxes you see here are actually from the video store I bought these from. It's a hilarious game and lots of fun to play at parties until the 2K era ushered in, of course. Finally, we have a game I still have yet to finish, and another game I purchased for $3. Though I think it's probably worth full price for containing RPG elements. Another hint, we're talking about the coolest bear and bird duo of all time, created by arguably my favorite third-party developer on Nintendo 64, and the very same company that developed GoldenEye. That's right, it's Banjo-Tooie by developer Rare Studios. How can you go wrong with games like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Donkey Kong Conquers Bad Fur Day, and the Banjo series? Rare was third-party development at its best. And if any of you mentioned Sega, it's not included for the time because Sega was still engaged in the console wars and did not become a third-party developer to the early 2000s. Well, there you have it, my Nintendo 64 collection. I may eventually play these games for YouTube, but nothing is certain at the moment. If requested, I can flaunt my PC collection, Wii collection, GameCube collection, portable console collection, and PS2 collection at will. Man, that's a mouthful. But again, that's up to the viewers. As you can see, I have a lot of ground to cover. Thank you all for sharing this journey of nostalgia with me, and don't forget to subscribe so you can keep track of more videos like this, and have a good evening, everybody. Love you all.